Whisky, a story captured in shades of gold and amber. It speaks of tradition, of rebellion, of artistry honed over centuries. From the quiet cloisters of ancient monasteries to the bustling energy of modern distilleries, the story of whisky is the story of human ingenuity, survival, and celebration. It has warmed the cold, fueled revolutions and connected cultures across vast oceans. So pour yourself a dram, settle in, and let's explore the incredible journey of this spirit from its humble beginnings to its global renown. This is the short story of whisky. Our tale begins not in a tavern, but in a monastery. The word whisky itself is a beautiful echo of its past, evolving from the Gaelic term beatha, which translates to the water of life. Around the 5th century, Irish monks, returning from their travels across the Middle East, brought with them the secrets of distillation. The art, originally used to create perfumes and aromatic oils, was ingeniously adapted. Instead of flowers and herbs, they began to distill a fermented mash of grain. The result was a potent, warming spirit, the very first ancestor of the whisky we know today. And the often harsh, unforgiving landscapes of Ireland and Scotland, this water of life was more than a mere beverage. It was a source of warmth against the biting winds, a medicinal comfort, and a vital part of social and cultural life. It was a symbol of resilience, a way to transform the simple, abundant grains of the land into something that could sustain the body and lift the spirit through long, dark winters. As centuries passed, the water of life flowed from the monasteries into the villages and farms. The craft of distillation became a common skill, a tradition passed down through generations. And with the great waves of migration in the 17th and 18th centuries, this tradition was packed alongside family heirlooms and carried across the vast Atlantic. Irish and Scottish immigrants, seeking new lives in the New World, brought their pot stills and their precious knowledge with them, but America presented a new pantry of ingredients. The familiar barley of their homeland was not always readily available. Ever resourceful, these new Americans turned to the native grains that flourished around them. In Pennsylvania and Maryland, the spicy, robust character of rye became the heart of their new whiskey. Further south, in the fertile lands of Kentucky, corn became king. This sweeter grain, when distilled and aged in charred oak barrels, gave birth to a uniquely American spirit, bourbon. Whiskey became the quintessential drink of the frontier, a companion to pioneers, explorers, and settlers as they pushed westward, carving out a new nation. It was a currency, a comfort, and the very spirit of American expansion. Whiskey wasn't just a bystander in history. It was often at the very heart of the action. It became a powerful political and economic force. In 1791, the fledgling United States government, desperate for revenue to pay off its Revolutionary War debt, levied its first-ever federal tax on a domestic product, whiskey. For farmers on the western frontier, this was not just a tax on a luxury. It was a tax on their livelihood. They often distilled their excess grain into whiskey because it was easier and more profitable to transport than the bulky grain itself. The tax felt like an oppressive decree from a distant government that didn't understand their way of life. This simmering resentment boiled over into what became known as the Whiskey Rebellion. President George Washington himself led troops to quell the uprising, a powerful demonstration of the new federal government's authority. Decades later, during the American Civil War, whiskey served another purpose. It was a standard part of a soldier's ration, providing a moment of respite from the horrors of the battlefield, a so-called liquid courage before a charge and an antiseptic for battlefield medicine. It was a symbol of both comfort in times of despair and defiance in the face of authority. The turn of the 20th century, however, brought a shadow that threatened to extinguish the spirit's flame entirely. The temperance movement, which had been gaining momentum for decades, achieved its ultimate goal. In 1920, the 18th Amendment was ratified, and the United States officially went dry. Prohibition was a devastating blow to the American whiskey industry. Hundreds of distilleries, many of which had been operating for generations, were forced to shut their doors, seemingly overnight. But the water of life is resilient. A clever loophole allowed a select few distilleries to continue, operating by obtaining licenses to produce whiskey for medicinal purposes. Doctors would prescribe a pint of whiskey every 10 days for a variety of ailments, turning pharmacies into the only legal purveyors of spirits. Meanwhile, a vast and dangerous black market exploded. Bootleggers and gangsters, figures like Al Capone, built criminal empires smuggling whiskey from Canada and the Caribbean. Hidden from view in clandestine speakeasies and secret back rooms, Americans continued to sip their forbidden pleasure, adding a new chapter of rebellion and romance to whiskey's story. When Prohibition was finally repealed in 1933, the American whiskey industry was a ghost of its former self. It faced a long, slow road to recovery, but recover it did. Bourbon, with its deep roots in American soil and culture, gradually re-established itself, eventually being declared America's native spirit by Congress in 1964. Distilleries in Kentucky and Tennessee began to refine their craft, focusing on quality and heritage. Simultaneously, across the Atlantic, Scotch whiskey was embarking on its own journey to global domination. The elegant, complex flavors of single malts from the Scottish Highlands and the smoky, peaty character of whiskies from Islay captivated palates around the world, cementing Scotch as the benchmark for premium whiskey. Then, in the late 20th century, a new contender emerged from the East. Japan, which had been quietly honing its distillation techniques for decades, burst onto the international scene. Inspired by Scottish methods but guided by their own unique philosophy of precision and balance, Japanese whiskies began winning top international awards, stunning the old guard and proving that the art of making exceptional whiskey knew no geographical boundaries. Today, we are living in a golden age of whiskey. The industry is a global phenomenon, a multi-billion-dollar world of passionate collectors, curious connoisseurs, and everyday enthusiasts. The landscape is richer and more diverse than ever before. You can find grand, historic distilleries that have been operating for 200 years, standing alongside small, innovative craft distilleries that are pushing the boundaries of what whiskey can be. Each bottle on the shelf tells a unique story, a story of place of the specific grains harvested from the earth, the particular shape of the copper, still the type of wood used for the barrel, and most importantly, the patient hand of time. From the rugged coasts of Scotland to the rolling hills of Kentucky, from the serene mountains of Japan to the green fields of Ireland and beyond, whiskey continues to be crafted with a deep respect for both tradition and innovation. So the next time you hold a glass of whiskey, take a moment. Notice the color, the way the light catches the liquid. Inhale the complex aromas of oak, vanilla, smoke, or fruit. When you take a sip, you're not just tasting a spirit. You are tasting history. You are experiencing the legacy of those ancient monks, the resilience of the pioneers, the defiance of the rebels, and the passion of the master distillers. For centuries, whiskey has endured. It has survived wars, prohibition, and the ever-changing tastes of time. Its essence, that uisce beatha, remains unchanged. It's a connection to the past, a comfort in the present, and a story poured into every single glass. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the things we love. Cheers.